All right, guys, thanks for joining me today. Day 3 of strip tilling. I got 2 things to tell you, and I don't know if you'll believe either one of them. The first one is an emission sensor went out on the Massey last night, and with the help of my wonderful service manager, Pierre, and his wonder brother in parts, I have it the next morning. It's awesome to be able to talk to parts and service at 7, 8, 9, 10 at midnight, and you know, it's on will call waiting for you. Like, nice. Gotta split this shroud. It's the old one is the one sticking up there, so I just gotta take them holders off and then plug this new one in, and then we're up and going again. And we finished this field last night. Everything went pretty okay. One thing I did was I ended up pinning down my berming discs. So I made them rigid, because otherwise they would start to build up. We got sticky soil. They start to build up till they rub the shank, and then they'd float and just slide. So by pinning them down, they're forced to keep rolling and they clean themselves up. The second thing I don't know if you're going to believe is I've always been honest with you guys. I've always just open sleeve. Don't judge me on this one. But I don't know if you'll believe it or not, but last night I had a dream, and I went up to I went to the gates, and Peter's like, well, come in, John. And I'm like, no, I'm not ready to go. I can't go. I got so much left to do. And he's like, I can't do nothing. I'm like, there's got to be a way. And so he talked to his boss. And I don't know if his boss thinks he's a comedian, but his boss is like, he can go back as a hen. And I'm like, I'll do it. Even if it's for a day, I'll do it. And so they sent me back as a hen. And I'm walking around the yard, and I can see Karen over there. And I'm like, yes, I can still see Karen. I'm now one of her chickens, and I felt this weird feeling in my gut, and one of the other hens come over and said hi, and I said, my gut feels really weird. And the other hen said, well, have you ever laid an egg before? And I'm like, what? No. And so whoop, a big egg came out. Like, oh, that felt so good. And a few minutes later, bloop, like, oh, and all of a sudden Karen come running over to me in my dream, and then and she's yelling at me, and all of a sudden smacks me in my dream, and I wake up to Karen hitting me in real life. I'm like, what in the heck? And she's like, wake up, dummy, you're pooping the bed. Okay. Yeah, I got to get this sensor fixed. I got a little bit of soybean fertilizer left, and I got a little bitty soybean field left to fertilize. So I'll go finish. That'll be the last soybean field in West Rock, and then Peterson's Mill. Special thanks to Peterson's Mill. I didn't even have to do the "Do you know who I am" line this year. You just call and they show up, and I use this as a surge bin, so I get a couple refills out of here. So like he just came now, and so then you just put me on the books for by noon tomorrow, and then by noon tomorrow they'll be back and refill it again, and then nobody's yelling at anybody because they've got 24 hours to get back here. And then tomorrow morning I got some service calls and some shop work to do while they get here with fertilizer, and now I'm done with my shop day. I ended up on a service call just down the road, so now I'll do a service call for myself, and then we'll get stripping. Well, I didn't get any video in the last field, but that field's kind of a black sand. Just down here. So it doesn't make the tractor very muddy, but you can sink. You can drive your heel several inches into the ground, but yet your boots aren't coming up muddy. It's really weird, but it's so soft yet that it's like piss on it. Right up the road is France Farm, and that France Farm is as solid as a rock. I strip tilled it last fall to seed that clover down, and so we'll try and catch that same pass if I can. I got to change that point yet. I forgot all about that. But we'll get this guy refilled and get up there and get stripping, and hopefully no rain lands on my wagon. Oh boy, look at that. We're stripping on last year's. So last fall, this field it's fairly new to the whole soil health thing. So we stripped it last fall to help with water management and some compaction. And now this spring I'm stripping on them same strips, and it is pulling like a hot knife through butter. 5.5 miles an hour at 1500 RPM. It is just gorgeous. I like that. I know it's an extra pass, but like you can see this spot here, right there is a terribly wet spot, and then right there's another where all the water comes from over there to here. That's insane. Hardly a wheel track. This field's really coming around, I'll tell you what. The only thing is, rocks. This field's got a lot of rocks. That's why it'll be corn for several years. Yeah, that's, you know, not too many years ago you'd have major washouts. So this is corn ground, so we're running a lot more fertilizer than the soybean ground, obviously. But I'm really excited to get planting on this and see how this all turns out. The soybeans I have to spray before I plant. But the corn, all this cornfield, because this is the field I tried to use the strip till rig to air seed the clover into last fall. And you can see there's a little clover and little stuff here and there. But these fields, maybe a guy leaves them go a little bit before you spray to try and get a little more growth out of them covers. Hard to tell what to do. But yeah. Oh yeah, look at there. The mill just dropped off the last load for the day, and that'll easily get me some fertilizer to, I'll easily be able to do this field and get moved down the road to the 100. And oh boy, I wonder if he was able to get it all in, or if he has to move a little bit. I have to get up there and shovel. I'm behind schedule. I'll have to get up there and shovel and help make room. Well, looks like he's done. Well, I'm trying to beat the rain, and or at least the possibility of rain. Not quite sure what's going to happen. Just south of us on radar, it looks nasty, but yet the hour by hour here says no rain. And so I'm up to 6.5 miles per hour, and we are going good. This field is working like an absolute dream. It's going to pull a little harder over on this side because it gets flat and wet. So it's a little more sandy over there. This bottom corner is fairly, the whole field is fairly sandy, but it gets a little compacted in some of these spots. And so, yeah, it's just trying to beat the rain. We'll see if it happens. But I've only got probably a refill and a half left in the wagon. So I'll be done with this hopper here in the next hour or two. And then I'll refill and run down the road and start the next field. Working on the head. So I'm at the north end, then I'll travel up this side, hit that south headland and work my way back to the road, back to the wagon for a refill, and then off to the next field. And my Lanta, Phil Collins, I Can Feel It in the Night song came on when I started this field. I think it's halfway through now. Could there be a slower, longer song than anything Phil Collins? Holy cow, James. Well, there we go. Let's race down this row and get to that end. We got headland, come up, headland, come up, headland. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 headlands on this field. Well, we're here in the Big 100 field, just getting going, and this field, there's compaction spots, but this field is the one that has all them little dips, and so strip till really saved our life. This one, as you can see, that is not a cover crop. I have been trying to burn that quackgrass back for several years now and have had zero luck. So this year we're going to be way more aggressive, and hopefully we can finally knock it back. It's starting to thin out, but yeah, by gosh, you use the Roundup and the AMS and some residuals, and it still keeps coming. Well, before we start stripping today, we got some def maintenance to do. So I replaced that sensor. Everything worked good. And then later that night, it started beeping at me and derating. So I called several people with the code, and the consensus was it doesn't seem to be any sensor is bad. The first thing they would start is refilling the tank with good def. If you don't have a def tester, otherwise test it. You might have a bad jug of def, but then also to clean this filter. And so we're right here behind the steps. There's a panel here that comes off, and this cap comes off, and then we'll clean that filter and top off with new def, and hopefully it doesn't come back on. If it does come back on, then you need to decide, do I just buy 2 sensors and replace them both and start throwing sensors at it, or just have service come out, plug in the laptop, tell you which sensor it is, and replace that sensor. And so, but first we'll start here and go from there. Well, this is my first time, so you and I are going to learn together. So the cap comes off, and then this calf bottle nipple comes out, and then this guy comes out. So we're going to run it under some hot water and see if we can't give it a cleaning. It looks really good. We're going to just clean it in some hot water for a little bit and pop it back in, because the other one isn't here yet, and go from there. I'll get some footage, driving footage on the next field, but we're done here at the 100. Man, everything just went really well. We should have a video about the value of a great landlord, because he's out here. He's still picking away at the farm and fence lines and ditches and stuff like that. And when people come knocking on his door to jack up the rent, he says no thank you, but then he comes to me and says we got to check up the rent. But I appreciate that he stuck with me. That's a good landlord. But we're wonderfully green and growing. the worm activity on this field is just insane. A couple years ago, you didn't see a whole lot for worms, and now, I mean, they're teeming everywhere. We got some sort of brassicas growing there, and some alfalfas, clovers, very dense grass. And I think it's all kind of working to help condition this soil. We're putting down calcium and carbon in our strip till. We're putting down mycorrhizal with our corn, with our seed. All our little seeds germinating from last year that didn't germinate. We're really setting up to just have a good year, but that's enough yapping. Let's get moved.